Joe.
What's up, buddy?
Not much. How you doing?
Good, man. You hear me okay?
I hear you great. I hear you
Good.
great. Yeah,
Back home safe and sound?
Yeah. Made it all home after that awesome weekend. Did you guys get any warm? You guys had a warm up, didn't you?
Just today, finally. Shoot, I think it was 38 today.
Yeah.
So a lot of that snow melted, and I mean, it was pretty dang cold there for a few days right when you guys left, and then it got warm, which is pretty typical for out here. You know, we'll get some Chinook kind of stuff come in and melt it all off, and back to normal.
It was warmer there today than it was here.
No kidding.
Yeah. I guess we're getting the fallout, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
we didn't have 15 degrees below zero on Sunday here. I can tell you that. Thank goodness.
Oh my gosh. You guys at Christmas time, it was 41 below here.
It was 15 below here at my house. And then, yeah. So
everyone in the country is pretty cold relative to where they live.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. Casey Stutzman, the one of the houndsmen that came with me.
Yep.
It was, I think he said it was 56 below at his house in Marion, Montana.
Good gracious.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, it reaches a point where like 15 to 20 below and another 10, you just don't, it's just freezing ass cold any way you look at it.
Yeah. I said, what in the world do you even do? You know?
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's a great weekend we had up there in Cody. That was quite the event.
Man, it turned out so good. It was a lot of fun, so well attended, and for me, like last year, I saw a glimpse of it with our crowd. Had a very diverse kind of I don't know if you want to call it an eccentric crowd, but a very diverse crowd with a lot of younger people and then a lot of different groups because. You know, when you try and do a banquet, it just doesn't seem like you're going to fit there wasn't 300 bear hunters in there, but there was a lot of people that, you know, support what conservation's all about and hunting and stuff. So we got a lot of different people, which I like seeing. And I like seeing the younger kind of people come to the table a little bit with this conservation. That's so important.
You even got the dirty houndsman in the door this year. We had a table full.
I loved it, man. I know you guys and there was about 5 other pretty hardcore houndsmen in there, and I loved having that. It's such a good opportunity for, you know, kind of the houndsmen to get together and then, you know, meet each other from other areas. Houndsmen are like bear hunters sometimes. I think they're in their little groups sometimes and don't, you know, kind of
houndsmen are bear hunters, Joe.
Yeah, I guess I would say like some of those hardcore lion guys keep to themselves pretty good.
Oh yeah, yeah. We definitely are fly under the radar most of the time. It kind of hurts us at times because nobody knows really what we do or what we stand for, and
doesn't understand it.
That's why we do what we do here at Houndsman XP. But Luke Worthington came all the way over from. I mean, he's east of Gillette. And drove.
Yeah, he came a long way.
Weather.
Yep. Which I was stoked because I hadn't met Luke yet, and I've talked to Luke 100 times on the phone. You know, we talk a lot about things, and I was so glad to see him come over and meet him, man. And a few other people I had never met, but have had like a working relationship with for several years.
Luke says he works hard on that ranch, but I talk to a lot of people that say they talk to Luke a lot on the phone, and anybody that's ever talked to Luke Worthington on the phone, it's never a short conversation. So I don't know how he's getting work done, but
I tell you what, you better set aside some time for that one.
And we're going to pick on Luke because he's out here to defend himself, of course, and he would me anyway. So
yes,
yeah. So let's just run down the banquet a little bit and I want to tell everybody what they missed by not coming to this thing. Cause it was a great day. It was a great night.
It was.
We want to talk about, you know, how much money we raised for conservation, where that money's going to go. I want to talk about the diverse crowd that we had there. I want to cover it all. I want people to think after they listen to this podcast, I want them to think, I've got to go to Cody next year. And then I'm going to talk about stuff that we did on the side that was awesome.
Heck yeah.
So, all right, how many we have at the banquet, Joe?
Right around 300 folks at the banquet. We had, we had intended to sell 300 tickets, and we sold 268, and then we had some comp seats that we set aside for a few folks, and then we kind of tried to keep a few aside just in case. And then with the weather, I think we might have ended up. I know we fed 268 people.
Oh, nice,
yeah,
nice.
So yeah,
who was
about all we could fit.
It wasn't crowded. The facility was great, but if you double that, it's going to be packed.
Yeah.
Who was the farthest away?
I think, well, you and Sean and Alex were the farthest. So them guys, Sean and Alex, came from Virginia.
They got me beat by a couple states.
Yeah, and then you. And so, man, I told people there was guys coming from Virginia, and they couldn't believe it. And I was like, that just kind of shows, it's a big stretch to come that far. Sean having and kind of overseeing the state chapter, I think he thought it was really important. I think the impetus for Sean coming out was Alex. Alex had bought a ticket well before, we were sold out. He bought a ticket back in like December. So he was coming regardless. And I think he really talked Sean into it, which I was so happy. Such Alex, a neat guy, neat story. And then to finally get to meet Sean was incredible. Yeah.
Sean Clarkson, and Alex, I'm going to butcher his last name, Kurashev.
I think that's right.
Everybody knows Alex. He's hunting those. We had breakfast with him the next day, and we were talking about his dogs, and he said everybody calls them fuzzy dogs, the little yellow fuzzy dogs. They're West Siberian Lycus, totally different. He's really changing. He's bear hunting that's a very non-traditional way in Virginia, and I think he's opening some eyes with everything that he's doing there, because he's showing people that you can do it a different way and still be wildly successful.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I enjoyed talking with Alex, and I'm doing that with him at some point, and I'm trying to talk him into coming out here and see if we can put some of those Lycas behind a cat and see what happens. I'm going to make a point to go to Virginia and trail them dogs with him. I got to see that. That is so fascinating. And like you said, I think he's kind of changing some people's perceptions of how you can run bears with dogs.
Yeah. Because Appalachia is, that's definitely, Virginia is a lot of walker hound people over there. I'm surprised it's not the state dog. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all those, founding fathers brought those running walkers in. And so those Virginians love those spotted dogs, man. They love them.
Yeah.
And you bring Alex in there, who's got the yellow fuzzy dogs, and he speaks with that Russian accent. Yeah.
And he's not easy to hide either. He's a big dude.
Yeah. What do you think he is? 6'6", 6'5"?
He's gotta be 6'6". I mean, he looks down on me. I'm 6, maybe on a good day. And yeah, he's a big
I think
fella.
You're trying to sneak in an inch or two there, Joe.
I might be. It's radio, right?
Yeah, that's right. Prove it. See, I made the mistake of getting my picture taken standing beside him, and I look like I'm about 5'5" standing there next to him.
I know.
But no, he's a super guy. He's got a lot of he really surprises. He doesn't surprise you. I guess I was impressed is a better way to put that. He's very insightful. He's a deep thinker when it comes to, techniques for hunting bear and conservation and just a lot of different. He's an interesting guy to talk to. He's really cool.
Very much so. I thought the same thing. I was not sure what to expect and super knowledgeable. I didn't get to talk to him enough.
Yeah. Well, there were a bunch of people there that we didn't get to talk to enough, but so how many, I don't even know what it was. Such a good time. I don't even know where to begin with it. I mean, it was. We had the Wyoming Wildlife Federation on hand that was helping put on that banquet. They worked their tails off, and just if you don't mind, just kind of talk to us about the partnership with Wyoming Wildlife Foundation and the great help that they provided.
Yeah, those guys are, without them, our group probably would struggle to pull something like that off. And we'd get it done. But a couple of years ago, Jaden Bales with Wyoming Wildlife Federation was bugging me about doing a banquet, and I said we just won't do a banquet. I think banquets are outdone. And I'd been to so many, and we go to them, right? And it's part of what conservation is doing. We go and support, and so I just got kind of bored with them, and so I was pretty anti-banquet for a while. And it was also hard for me to envision where to have one because we're a national organization. I'm like, where do you have one? And then who's going to put it on? Me living in Cody, and then our board kind of spread out. I'm like, we need kind of someone to do it and be where they're at. And so finally he just talked me into like, let's do one together and I'll help you. And I was like, okay, we'll do one. Where should we do it? And we were bouncing back and forth between Cody and Lander. He's like, I think Cody, man, we need to do it there. And the amount of sportsmen and people that are into outdoor recreation here, it just kind of fit. And so last year we kind of threw this together and didn't really know what to expect. We were hoping for 200 people. We well smoked that last year and just had such a great turnout. And our idea of a banquet was to keep it fun and loose. I didn't want a big stuffy thing where people feel like they got to dress up and it's quiet. And I was like, I want people in there having fun, drinking, talking, playing games. I wanted it to be kind of more blue collar where, just about anyone can play a game, get in on a raffle. We didn't want to do a very long live auction because those can just drag on. And I was like, let's put a few fun things in there. And then because sometimes people just can't play, they just can't afford that stuff. We're like, they're spending $50 to get in the door. Let's, try and make an event for them that they want to come back to. And last year, that was one thing that everyone said. They're like, my gosh, you guys did such a good job. It was like, it wasn't super long and drawn out. Everyone had a good time. Like we had everyone out of there last year by like 9:00 and they're like, awesome job. We had so much fun. We're coming back. And so then this year we were like, we got to do it a little bit better as far as the food and spend a little bit more money on food and stuff and try and get.
Before we get too far off base, why am I eating chicken at the Cody Cattle Company? I couldn't even figure that one out. I'm like, oh yes, Cody. You drive around Wyoming, it's like Wyoming is beef and all this stuff. And then I get to the Cody Cattle Company and it was chicken. I was like,
I know, dude. I struggled with that so bad.
Price per pound, it's got to be more expensive right now than beef.
Right now it probably is. When we set the meals up last year, we did pulled pork sandwiches and tater tots, and I had people that are like, "Great, that's perfect." But we were trying to keep the ticket cost down because I was like, "Yeah, we can do prime rib, and everyone will pay a little bit more." But this year we were like, let's go a little bit higher, but like all the beef stuff for when they quoted us prices, I was like, oh my gosh, like we wanted to kind of try and keep it cheap. So
I'm just busting your chops. The food was outstanding.
It's okay. Believe me, everyone said it was really good though. I didn't eat, but
yeah, it was. It was really good. I mean, it's not grandma's fried chicken from back home. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to throw my grandma under the bus here, Joe. But for a banquet, it was well worth it. We weren't there. I mean, yeah, you like to have good food and stuff, but the food was great, and it was great. Yeah, good time.
Yeah, this year we tried to cap it at 300. When I talked to the venue guy, Greg Penley. I said, Greg, what can we fit in here? And he's like, well, about what you had last year. I was like, we need more. He's like, so I went out there and visited with him a couple times and we looked at layouts and stuff. And he's like, you could seat like 312 or 20 or something. And I was like, but then you don't really have room for everything else. So we ended up capping it right about, we were going to try and do 275 tickets for food, and it ended up perfect. The weather really probably affected our turnout. I mean, not as bad as I expected. It was still so packed, but I definitely know we lost some people because of the weather and travel. We lost our, as you know, our keynote speaker. We had a couple people that were presenting prior to that couldn't make it, which was really kind of a bummer, but we made it work. We just kind of improvised, and kind of the idea of, I think kind of it really kind of, to me, says a lot about, what kind of that group is. We're just kind of a laid back, carefree group that's like, oh, they're not going to be here. Let's just throw it on Zoom and we'll get through it. And no one really seemed to be too upset or nothing. So, we made it work.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, we had a great meal. We had a good auction. Who was our auctioneer? Who was that?
Randy Burtis. So he's a houndsman, lives in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He volunteered for us last year, and he kind of, he does a lot of that on the side for a lot of conservation groups. He's involved with a lot of groups, big with bow hunters in Wyoming, and just, I've known Randy a long time. Great guy. He's the type of guy that if I called him today and needed help, he'd be here, and he really does a good job, helps us organize it because we're kind of running around. He's like, give me what I need, I'll figure it out. And so it really takes a ton of pressure off us. And then Lee Livingston, who's an outfitter in Cody country, he helped Randy out. He does a lot of that stuff too, where he's kind of, up on stage, they're going back and forth. And so last year we didn't have that. And this year it just added to it so much.
Yeah. Great team, had spotters on the floor. They did it. I mean, they kept that auction running, and, Randy, he's quick on his feet. Those auctioneers are a special breed. I'm telling you.
I don't know how they do it. It's yeah. I asked him if he wanted to drink about halfway through. He's like, "Oh, not till I'm done." I'm like, "Hell, bud, I'm about 4 deep. You need to catch up."
Yeah. How? We won't run down the breakdown yet. Let's talk about what all was on the floor there. And how did you run the rest of the fundraising there, Joe?
Yeah. So the big thing with these banquets, but my biggest fear is always getting stuff, right? These companies that you have to go to get hit up so much. And so, I always struggle. I try not to go to the same well too many times, but, I think after last year and then, sending out thank yous and everything to everyone, I think it was an easier ask this year. And so, we did several games. And we had a general raffle, and then we had the silent auction, and then the live. And, the games last year did really well, and we kept them the same. So we had a Texas Hold'em game for a Stag Arms gun.
Yeah.
Then we had a Guess the Pack Weight game for a Stone Glacier pack. And then we had the big one last year, and the big one this year was the mug raffle, where we had a company in Thermopolis, Wyoming, Laser's Edge, do mugs for us. So they laser engraved American Bear Foundation and Wyoming Wildlife Federation on the mug.
And we sell the mug.
Sell the mug for $50, and when they're gone, they're gone. They only get 50 of them, and then that was on a Bergara 300 win. And so we put that with like a modern day sniper shooting course and a Spartan bipod, and a rifle scope. So it was a whole package. And man, I could not believe I was up front by the stage when the doors opened, and obviously the beer line was long, but I could not believe how quick those mugs were gone. I didn't even get one.
I didn't either. I turned around and they were gone
so fast. And then that general raffle was just so full of people buying general raffle. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then the pack weight, that one you can do as much as you want, but the Texas Hold'em sold out fast. I was like, we're out of games before we even sat down for dinner, And so it was just so cool to see that kind of like reception to what we did. And, all those games, all those items were donated. So, they were all, that's all just to the good, we didn't have to pay any of them items back. So it worked out fantastic.
Yeah. Run down through, I want to build this up so that if somebody's out there and they're listening to this and they might be in the industry, they're going to want their products at your banquet. So let's just run down the list of some of the companies that were involved in that, to give people not only that, but to give people an idea again what they missed out on by not being there.
Yeah, so I will run down kind of a list here. It was big, and it was so diverse from. Like,
I don't want you to risk leaving somebody out and slighting somebody, but I would like to give people an idea.
Yeah, and I think I can get most of them. There was some late that I might not get, but we had Alpaca Raft Company there. They donated a backpacking raft, which is big, in kind of out west with backpack hunting and people want that. They're a little 5-pound inflatable raft. We had a local company, Absorca Wealth Management. We had a company out of Canada, Bare Beans Coffee Roasters. They donated a bunch of coffee.
I saw that. I got that. I won that.
It's good stuff. I buy it for all the guys at work. That's what we drink at work. So
yeah.
Bear Country Outdoors. They're out of Washington, Oregon kind of area. They donated a huge box of swag. Black Rifle, who we've recently just did a corporate sponsorship with. They were a huge part of our success for this banquet. So Black Rifle Coffee. Best Western did some rooms for us. Boar Masters, Wildlife Attractants. They're big in the bear hunting attractant space. Our outfitter that donated part of that hunt, the bear hunt, was Latitudes Outfitting out of Montana. Cabela's, big sponsor of ours. They donated a ton of optics for us. Couple taxidermists, Cedar Mountain Taxidermy was here and donated $500 towards taxidermy work, which was huge. Copperline Wealth Management did one of our youth conservation lifetime licenses. We had Campco last year, Campco Federal Credit Union last year. They were huge, and they came in big this year again and helped us underwrite that stag rifle. We had a local guy build a king size log bed for us. Dale Sims did a great job on that.
That was a good looking bed. That was a good looking bed frame.
Eastman's Hunting Journals donated us those limited edition whiskeys from Wyoming Whiskey. I mean, they donated those. Those things went crazy.
I think the highest one sold for $1,600.
1,700 was the last one. Ooh. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
We paired that up with a couple guns we got for a good price at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports here in Cody. And I mean, it was just a great turnout for those 4 whiskey bottles. Went for over $5,000.
Yeah. And only 4 people got a chance on those two firearms.
Yep. It was pretty neat. And it was,
that was a good way to do that.
Yeah. We did a Glock. We got a brand new Gen 5, Glock 10 on there, and then we had a Glock 9 on there as well. We were going to do a his and hers and give both away to one winner, and then we thought that day, why don't we split it up so 2 people at least will win out of the 4. So you had a 50-50 chance of winning a gun. Pretty good deal.
Yeah, it was.
Some companies out of Bozeman that really stepped up. FHF Gear, donated us a bunch of stuff. Stone Glacier has been one of our sponsors for the longest time. They sent us boxes of stuff to do. We had sleeping bags, packs. Those guys always come through. How about Joy Dog Food? Jeff Brown donated a whole pallet of dog food to us. He just called me up one day. I was like, I'm coming to your banquet. Do you want a pallet of dog food? I was like, hell yeah, man. We're going to have a bunch of houndsmen there. That'll be perfect. So we had
one of our sponsors.
Jeff was so nice and helped everyone load dog food up that night in the freezing ass cold and wind. And so it was just, it was cool. We had a company out of South Africa come to our banquet and donate a safari, Infinito safaris. So we ended up selling that hunt to a friend of mine, and Kifferoo, who's now in Wyoming, donated some stuff. Lathrop and Sons boots. I think you got the boots, buddy. So,
yes, I did.
Stephen and James at Lathrop and Sons have always been so good to us, and I have a good relationship with them, and it's been a nice thing for them. Small company, but never hesitate to help us out. So definitely appreciate that. Starting to work on a partnership with Leopold, so they donated a bunch of stuff to us. A big one that a lot of people might not know, it's starting to get big out here, is Modern Day Sniper. Philip was out here with Modern Day Sniper, actually lives in Cody, and They donated a full online, in-person shooting class, and then several online courses. And I tell you what, they're like the cream of the crop. He's a Marine sniper, retired, and he'll take you through the paces on how to shoot, man. It's legit. And so that actually went for more than the value of the thing, I believe.
Yeah, that was a neat package. Really cool. And he had his crew there too. So he came out and supported the banquet.
Which was so nice. I just so love when the people that sponsor want to come out and be there too. And it's just so nice to be able to thank them in person and show them like, hey, this is what we're doing with your stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Onyx Hunt Maps did a bunch of memberships for us. Razco out of Bozeman did a holster for us. We had a local accountant firm, Stein Bus, did a gun for us. We had the Stag Arms hooked us up with that rifle. Another local company that really stepped up huge, and that's what's so neat to see too, is some of the local companies like Superior Welding and Fabrication bought 2 youth lifetime conservation stamps, $200 KUIU gift cards for those kids. And it was a big deal. And I had people come up to me after and were like, every kid, we're going to make sure next year gets one. So we got a lot of people wanting to do that. It's a neat thing Wyoming does where you can give a kiddo, heck, that one kid was maybe one, gave him a lifetime conservation stamp. So they'll get some use out of that.
Yeah.
Our tagline, our head sponsor was Tanager Beverages, a local beer distributor here. I happened to work for them, and they came up big with cash. Went to the well there again, but
you bet.
Had a couple fishing trips donated. A river fishing trip, rafting trip here in Cody that went huge. Last year it was a big competition between a couple people to buy it, and this year it turned out the same way. And then my aunt and uncle donated a lake fishing trip. They have a guide service, Wyoming Real Action Fishing, where he runs a lake boat, and he fishes all these lakes around here, take you for lake trout, kokanee, whatever. And so he donated a fishing trip. And, you know, those are some of the big ones, just incredible for this little town. And, you know, relatively small organization. We're not RMEF or mule deer or wild sheep. So to see what we can get at these is pretty neat to me.
Do you want to talk about the total that you brought in, the haul?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we grossed about 43,000 in one night and a few hours in Cody, Wyoming. So
amazing.
Huge.
On a nasty. I mean, it was minus 10 degrees when we left there. The metal doors on the inside were frosting up. So
every road into Cody was closing. That's what I was just like. I saw people that went, they had no business being on the road, and they were at our banquet. I was like, oh my gosh, why are you here? You drove from Helena, or someone, Jeff from Joy Dog Food drove all the way up from down in Cheyenne. And I was like, I didn't even know the roads were open. He's like, we made her. So, I mean, like, to do that.
Leon Brown drove down from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Leon's car looked like it had just went through a drift when he pulled up.
Yeah, he won that dog food. So he stuffed 12 bags.
He did.
He stuffed 12 bags of that Joy Dog Food in that Jetta and hauled it back to Coeur d'Alene.
He did. I was like, we were out at the bar later, and I was like, did you get that all in there? He's like, oh yeah. I go, well, at least you'll have some weight for the ride home.
I didn't know there was an after party. I didn't get invited to that. We had our own.
Did you guys do something? We stayed around there for so long, kind of cleaning up, and there was a few people just hanging out drinking, you know, and everyone was like, well, let's go to the Dollar. I was like, I'm in. So we headed down to the Silver Dollar in Cody and had a little after party. I got stuck with those Virginia guys. I think we might have stayed out longer if my wife wasn't there.
I don't know, but Alex isn't really a Virginia guy. So, I mean, he's from Virginia, but he's also Russian, and they've got that reputation of being able to, you know, put it away. So, yeah, it's probably a good thing your wife was there.
Yeah, she was our driver. So when she kind of was like, time to go, I was like, great idea. But that was the latest I've stayed out in ages, 1:30 or so.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it still hurts today a little bit. I'm still tired.
All right. So you hauled in 43K. Great night in Cody.
we netted each organizational net. We did well. We have, after the food and the venue rental and stuff, each group. So we split it with Wyoming Wildlife Federation, right. And we'll be in that 15,000 range each, which is, I mean, that's our biggest fundraiser of the year, right? And
no doubt.
So it really helps us do things down the road, and it's so important that we do these, I think, going forward, just because of what it shows that, we're here, what we're doing, because we get a chance to showcase kind of what each group's doing. We get to talk to people that maybe you don't get to talk to every day. So,
all right, we know why people should come out to Cody. It's an awesome place. We spent just a few hours at the banquet, but just the Buffalo Bill, or the Great Western, what's that called? The Great Western.
Well,
Museum.
I call the Buffalo Bill Cody Museum of the West. It is, yeah, it's unbelievable.
We spent 2 days in there. Total, we probably spent about 6 to 8 hours in that museum over 2 days, and we didn't get to really take it all in. But besides that, Cody's a cool place. I mean, they're up in just the small old Main Street. You can go into all kinds of historic places, the Irma, and it's just. And then if you drive west towards the park, you drive into some of the most beautiful country you could ever imagine.
It really is stunning living here. It's such a neat place to come and visit. And January's tough, but normally we don't have that kind of weather, and it'll be cold, but there's so much to do even here in the winter, and just the Main Street. And actually the winter is probably my favorite time here, just because it's not overwhelmingly full with tourists from the park. So it's kind of like you get real Cody in the winter. You get the local people, it's just I love living here. It's such a neat place to come visit. It's a little tricky to get into, but once you get here, it's people love it and they want to stay.
Yeah. 100,000 people is what it grows to over 4th of July, in the month of July, right? And you can normally run about 10,000 people.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, I mean, it is just, we're not quite as bad as Jackson Hole, but in the summertime, July, around the 4th of July, when we have our big Stampede event for 4 days, it's insane here.
So,
and it's 50 miles from Yellowstone, and we have a direct access to the East Gate. So it's just constant.
That's another reason to come out in January and go ahead and attend the banquet, because you can avoid the crowds and see Cody without.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about what that money that was raised, what everybody came out and emptied their pockets and supported the ABF. Let's talk a little bit about what that money is going to be used for, Joe. I think that's an important part.
I think it's so important. One thing that we've always been really proud of is being all volunteer, and so when we have a banquet like this, it's not used, the money's not used to pay for anyone to do that. We're all volunteer. And so the money we raise is all going back onto the ground. Primarily, some of the projects that we have, we will write the check pretty much for what we brought in for the banquet. That'll go out in the next month and a half. And right now we're doing a partnership with Safari Club International in Wyoming, where we have a ton of grizzly bear conflict. We're doing a huge bear spray giveaway in the spring and the fall. We're going to do 3 bear spray giveaways this spring that are going to be kind of right before shed hunting season starts, when we start seeing some of our conflict pop up. You got a hunting license or a fishing license, you come, we'll give you a can of bear spray. So we're partnering with SCI on that one. So there's a big chunk there. And then our big one that we're still in the middle of is our black bear research in Wyoming. A big chunk will go to the grad student, Emily Davis, who's doing a lot of that work for us down at the University of Wyoming and the Wyoming Game and Fish. We'll give them a bunch of that money to go and continue her research and stuff. And we're kind of getting onto the downhill side of that, where we're going to start seeing some big results. I mean, you saw some of it, but there's a lot more to come. And so we're going to continue that study. And then, gosh, we have so many commitments already that we've made to projects, not only in Montana and Wyoming, but Idaho and Washington, and big stuff coming up in Virginia. And so all that stuff's going on the ground for bears, bear hunting, bear research. It's crucial. And we can spend that and do that now. We're, 2-3 years ago, we were not able to do that. And, Wyoming Wildlife being a little more overarching, Wyoming Wildlife Federation is going to spend a ton on like all their work with ungulates and carnivores, but they really do a lot. I mean, they're a great group. They're so active in this state. I'm so happy to be partnered with those guys on a lot of different things. They got a lot of irons in the fire. Yeah,
I'm gonna have a follow up. Joy Bannon couldn't make it. She's the executive director for the Wyoming Wildlife Federation. So she couldn't make it because they've got a big event going on in the capital, Cheyenne there. And so she's going to join me at a later date and talk about that event and what they're going to do with their funds that they raise. So, they have an awesome event today. Camo at the Capitol is a big deal. They put that on for our legislative session. It's important. Yeah, for sure. So we'll get a recap on that pretty soon. Some of the things I want to drill down a little deeper into what that research looks like, what's happening in Montana and Idaho and Washington and California. Where are we at are we ready to roll out the news about expanding the state chapters or where are we at on that?
Yeah. So California state chapter is in place. We are just, I like 2 days ago, got the federal or the state tax paperwork done and submitted. So we're there. They have a board. They're ready to kind of like take off. And that is so crucial as everyone's following stuff going on in California with carnivores and especially bears. Washington is in the process of electing a board right now. So paperwork is in and submitted for both those states. Once they have the board going, they'll be ready to rock and roll. We've been doing a lot as a national organization in Washington, kind of supporting what needs to get done there until this chapter kind of ramps up. Like we're going to be involved with some stuff going on with a bunch of other organizations involving the commission and the governor, and a lot of things need to get done out there. And we're right in the mix with that. But the chapter eventually, when it's strong enough, will kind of fill in and take that role as a state level organization rather than national. And then, Virginia is rolling, man. Those guys are doing some good things out there, and we're looking to get more chapters on board. I've got some people interested in a chapter in the Northeast. Possibly like a New York, New Jersey chapter, which I think would be so badass. And I think, we'll worry about Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming as the time comes, but I'm looking at states where we have some real things to accomplish, or we have,
what are you hoping that, presence. Yeah. So what are you hoping that since Virginia's up and running, you say they're doing good things there. What are they doing? And why should bear hunters in the state of Virginia support the Virginia chapter of the American Bear Foundation? The Houndsman XP Podcast Network is powered by Cajun Lights. All of your lighting needs for hunting can be taken care of at Cajun Lights. They have 3 models of cap lights. I'm going to run through them real quick. You've got the Rougarou, which is their high-end light. If you're a competition hunter and you got to find that coon up in a tree, and it's all riding on finding that coon, you'll want the Rougarou on your head. Next is the Bayou. That's a pretty standard light, but it's got packed with features. It's got multiple colors. It's got walking lights. It's got the red, the green, the amber. It's all built in right into that light. And then you have one of my personal favorites, the Micro Gator. The Micro Gator is an ultra lightweight cap light. It's got all the features of a white light, red, green, and amber. I've used this light for everything from finding bear tracks early in the morning to coon hunting at night to working on plumbing in the house, changing tires on the side of the road. My truck doesn't leave the driveway without a Cajun light in it, and that light is the Micro Gator. Every Cajun light is durable, made from the highest quality components, and it is backed by Cajun's top-rated customer service. check out Cajun Lights. You can go to our website at houndsmanxp.com. Go to our sponsors page, hit that link. It'll take you right to Cajun Lights. Check them out. They got a lot of stuff to offer over at Cajun Lights.
I think what's the most important thing they're doing is they're for all bear hunters. And that's been missing there a little bit. They're just trying to represent all bear hunters, whether you use hounds or you don't. They're out there for all bear hunters, and they're very active with the state. They're working with the Department of Wildlife Resources a ton. There's phone calls, there's emails, there's back and forth. We didn't get asked to be on the management committee, whatever, to develop their 10-year bear plan. And they know how frustrated we were about that. We've moved on past that. And Sean is working with Carl and all the guys in the department to get the information so we can look at the plan and work on that. And so they're working on all that. And then on the same token, they're doing things like pilot studies. Like, we paid a houndsman some money to go around and see if, hound using dogs could work as like a hound abatement, using dogs to keep bears out of corn and whatever else. And so they're doing things like that. We've already committed $10,000 to black bear work in that state. We've verbally committed. So, we're just coming to the table. Like, we're here now. Yeah, we're new, but we're going to be here. And this is what we're bringing. And this is what we're going to do. And I think at first they're like, oh, another group started up, whatever, and then now they know. I think sometimes when you start annoying them, that's when you're doing your job. And we might be there. I think we're doing a kick-ass job down there. Like, we have a presence, we have a voice down there, and there are just some smart folks on that board, and they're all diverse. They're from all different walks of life. There's some houndsmen, there's some people that don't own hounds, and they do a good job of communicating with each other and finding out things that need to be done. Little things, it doesn't have to be conquering the world. It's like, a couple $100 to a houndsman to see if we can go do some hounds abatement stuff. And now we're going to be looking at conflict mitigation stuff down there. And spending some money on that. So, that's all things chapters can be doing. That if it's me here or our national board, it's so hard to realize all the little tiny things that could get done in each state to help improve. That's where these chapters are going to be so crucial.
It's a grassroots effort. You got somebody on the ground locally that can keep their eye on legislation, not only legislation, but kind of a barometer for the what's going on, a watchdog group to make sure that things are going according to plan and nobody's good old boy system type stuff there and the resources suffering, or that all bear hunters aren't represented properly. And that's one of the things that I guess I'll kind of get on my soapbox about a little bit about the ABF. When I was out there, Wyoming's not a hound hunting state for black bear, but nope. We've just got to continue to find ways to bridge those gaps and tear down those barriers that are separating us and pigeonholing us and things like that. And that's what I talked about in my presentation out there was the fact that, when you walk in that room, none of us were wearing labels that said houndsman, stand hunter, spot and stalk. Nobody was wearing those. We were all just there for that common thread of being a bear hunter. And it was an awesome deal.
Yeah, that's the most important thing going forward. I think is breaking down these barriers that we all have with each other. And not to say I don't have them, but I've learned over the years that like we do, but some are so much stronger than others. And we as hunters, whether you're a hunter, a trapper, or whatever, like, it's time to be done with I'm a trapper or I'm a houndsman or I'm anti-hound hunting. Yeah. I'm a bait hunter. It is you're a hunter, you're a trapper. We're all the same. And you talk so much about that, which was so important. And that's what I wanted to really make this banquet about, was getting so many different user groups together, people from all different walks of life that enjoy something in the outdoors, maybe different than me. And just being in the same room and having a chance to talk to someone from like I said, like having a chance to sit down with Alex or Sean from Virginia, or you've been all over this country hunting and you've seen so many different things. And like, what a resource for someone that is only hunted in Wyoming. And we take things for granted living here because we have a very red state. Things kind of always go the way of the hunter here. It's not always going to be that way. So it is important for us and people that live in states like Wyoming to talk to other people and understand what's really going on in this country, because it's a kind of a scary thing.
Well, we only look in our backyard, or we only look at our own yards, and we don't consider what's going on someplace else. So I kind of want to get back to the state chapter thing. California's ready to roll. There's a lot of bear hunters and a lot of houndsmen that used to be bear hunters in California. So I really want to talk about what the ABF is going to be doing in California, and maybe convince some of we lost our ability to run bears with hounds in California, but why should houndsmen still come out and support the ABF and that California chapter?
Well, one thing I want people to know too, because we get a lot, I think, because maybe we started out west, and some of the states out west, you can't run bears, but we are such a pro hound hunting group. Like, if it makes sense on the ground to do it, we're all for it. And where we see states where it's been taken away, we're like, it wasn't taken away because of science or management. It was taken away because of emotion, right?
Yes.
So that's not great. And so what we see in California and, some other states where the use of hounds has been taken away for bear hunting, you can't hunt lions there. I don't even think you can hunt bobcats anymore. So
bobcats are taken off the table.
Yeah. So we're just losing all this stuff. So right now, priority number one for the chapter in California is going to be to build a defense and start getting stronger as far as like, okay, what's coming at us now? We gotta have some strategic plans in place to defend that, and then growing opportunities. And growing opportunities includes, how do we get hound hunting back? How do we get a chase season back? How do we get, some different hunter opportunity in the mix? Because they got a lot of bears out there and a lot of land. They got a lot of land, and we are so interested in growing opportunity, whether that be through the use of hounds or a 2-bear tag deal in California, maybe, because they don't have a spring season, so all their bear hunting's in the fall, and they're not hitting their target of
not
harvest.
Even close.
So so it's like, how do we do this?
Well, that's the thing. And what the wildlife professionals in California, they've got the studies and the management goals and different things. So they've got objectives. They've got harvest objectives, and when they don't hit those, they're still killing bears. They're doing it through wildlife services or state government, hired conflict mitigation type stuff. So anybody from California that might have happened across this podcast, just because hunting bears, if you think you're protecting bears by voting against hunting, you're not protecting them. You are just forcing the government to step in to do the work that hunters would be doing, because we're such a valuable part of it. But do you really think that there's a possibility that hound hunting bears in California could be restored, Joe? What's your honest opinion?
Honestly, at this point in my life and in this point in our country and in that state, no. It's going to be tough. I just don't know. I listened to a commission meeting. I usually get on to any California commission meeting where hunting bears especially is involved. And I've never quite seen a display like that in my entire life. And I've been on a lot of commission meetings. I mean, people were screaming and hollering on the phone, swearing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is a disaster. First off, they need a new management plan there. And that's one thing that could dictate a lot of what happens, but they have not updated their management plan in a long time. That's part of the process here. And this commission meeting, they wouldn't let anyone talk about hunting. If you spoke about hunting, they cut you off. And I tried to get online to talk and I couldn't, but this management plan will be very important. But the states keeps backpedaling on the management plan and they're trying to figure out the scope of it. And, I personally reached out to the people that are going to be involved with this management plan and I said, we'll bring money. We'll bring the knowledge of how to do a management, like a study, because they're like, we need to find bear numbers. I was like, we're doing a study right now in Wyoming. That's state of the art, cutting edge. Like other states are copying it. I was like, we have it built in and we'll bring money and people. And I guarantee a lot of these anti-hunting groups are not doing that. But I was like, let's get a good count. That's great. Let's figure it out, And then I think from there, maybe we can look at like, are hounds going to need to be in the mix, which I think they are there. But I just don't know, man. With ballot measures and all that crap, it's just so hard to see.
That's what I mean. Can you imagine being a biologist right out of college, having all this fire in your belly, and you're going to change the world and you're going to save, and you come out and you start doing this real wildlife work, and you're trying to work within the according to the North American model. You've had all this stuff and you're like, man, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to start doing this work. You put together a management plan and then you got 14 lawsuits to put a stay on what you're doing, a cease and desist order, a suit against the department. It's got to be frustrating as all get out in that state.
Yeah, and the people that really know about bears in that state, the hunters, because hunters oftentimes know more about wildlife than anyone. I would say more times than not, that they're like, we are so loaded with bears where we hunt, and the deer hunters you talk to and like, you talk to hunters in Washington where they don't have a spring season anymore, in California, and they're like, oh, I see 3-4 bears a day deer hunting. And it's just like, holy crap. There's bears south of LA. There's bears all the way up there. There's no bear population problem there. And so maybe a management plan would be the first step of saying some realization. And maybe if it's on paper, some of these people will change their minds. I've heard this saying over and over again that it's like, you're not going to change someone's mind that's so against you. You're just going to have to try and change the mind of the people that are middle of the road.
Those chickens are all going to come home to roost one of these days, and it's going to slap people right in the face. And again, they're going to sit back and cry and say that the government didn't do their job when you've had different things proposed to control the bear population, but they're going to run into population density problems, which they've already got. They're going to run into genetic diversity problems there, where
infanticide and all that stuff, density dependence. It's
disease.
It's such an emotional decision by people, and like, to me, I get emotional. I get flat out sad when I see a bear in a town, and there's like, I've seen it on TV, and they're in LA, and they're like a helicopter flying, and there's a bear in some guy's yard trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Yeah, I mean, that breaks my heart, because that bear shouldn't be there, and it's freaked out, and then they're going to just put it down. I'm like, well, there goes one more that, a hunter could have took, or if we did our job as humans, we wouldn't have this problem, but people don't want to take responsibility for being here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. And then, so those are the two new ones. We're working on the Washington deal and one in the Northeast. Northeast needs all the help it can get, Joe. We need to, we need to jump in there and help carry that across the goal line, that ball across the goal line. New Hampshire barely got to have a bear season this year. That was a great win for bear hunters in New Hampshire, but man, they could use the help up in the Northeast.
Yeah, I got a guy that lives in New York right now that is really interested in getting something going, and that's what we need, right? We don't need the people that are like, yeah, we'll support you and do whatever. We need the people that are like you said, they got fire in their belly. They're like, let's get this going, and because it's some work, it's some work, and you're not going to get paid, but I mean, it's a pretty fair trade-off when you think about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to protect. And, and, further for generations to come.
No doubt. No doubt. Let's talk about those conservation stamps real quick. Cause I think, if you're not from Wyoming, then I know that at our table, the question was bouncing around, what those actually are. And I think that's huge because you gave away 4 to kids, and that meant something. So describe what that is and why that was such a big deal.
Yeah. So Wyoming's really neat. Like, you can get lifetime licenses in Wyoming on certain things. And so they have different ones, and kind of the base one is a lifetime conservation stamp. Then they have like lifetime fishing, lifetime conservation and fishing. They have lifetime small game, which is, for us, upland birds, rabbit. They have lifetime archery stamps. So all these things that the state has are kind of a neat thing for kids, because once you have that, even if you move out of the state, you don't have to pay non-resident conservation stamps. So my daughter, for instance, she's got a lifetime conservation. She won it at a different banquet that we were at for wild sheep. And now she has like a plastic card that no matter where she travels in this country, she can come back here and have a resident conservation stamp if she moves away.
And what does that mean? I mean, like in Indiana, we have a comprehensive hunting license that covers, everything. It covers your small game license. It covers your bird stamps. It covers your So is this like a lifetime hunting license? And do you need that license to buy the big game tags, or how does that work?
Yeah, essentially a conservation stamp in Wyoming's your ticket to entry. Once you get that, then you can buy a hunting license. So you can't have a deer, an elk, a bear, cat license without a conservation stamp. Gotcha. You can't hunt without one. So what it does is it gives you that. It's kind of like in some states they have a hunting license, and then you get an elk tag or whatever. Wyoming's got a conservation stamp. Montana does a similar thing. And so we gave those away to kids. We bring every kid up that is under 17, and we just draw out of hats and give them to them. And it's a neat thing to try. We're losing that next generation. I think we got a bunch in the 20s and 30s that are kind of bringing up the fold of conservationists, but man, the younger generation, like those kids just turning hunting age, and we're losing that. It's not good. So maybe this gives them another thing to say, hey, I have this, and maybe take some pride in it, and then break that barrier to entry a little bit, and so it's just a neat thing to involve the kids too, because people we want it to be a family oriented banquet too, where you want to bring your kids. And that's another reason, like, people go to these because we're giving these away, and they're like, well, I'm going to bring all 5 of my kids. We gave a Tika 6.5 away, no charge. We didn't charge the kids anything. They just put their name in a bucket, gave a Tika 6.5 away for the kids.
Yeah. Luke Worthington's son, Parker, he had quite the haul that night. He won that, and he won the conservation stamp.
Yeah, he did good. It was worth their time to come over.
No doubt. No doubt. That kid has walked, what did Luke say? He's walked to 100 lion trees?
Cats.
100 lion trees.
Yep.
That's amazing. And I think
you
think he's 10 or 11, maybe 12?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I'm like, dude, I wish you lived here. I could go on some chases with you. That's incredible. Yeah, so it's so important to involve the kids. And it's not for selfish reasons. We're not trying to make money off them. We're just giving those away. And it also shows the crowd, like, and the people that are there, like, that we want to invest in our future, as get these kids involved. And I had several people come up to me, like I said, they're like, next year, let me know. We'll just get every kid. We'll figure out a way to do it. And so that's important.
What's the cost on that lifetime stamp?
I think that lifetime conservation's like $225 or $250, and then it just goes up from there. I think the highest level one's like $600, and that involves like fishing, conservation, and maybe small game. And so as you get going, you can get more stuff, but they just cost more. But you have it for life.
Put Houndsman XP down for a sponsor for one of those conservation stamps for next year.
That's awesome, man. We will definitely do that. That's so great. I get a lot of passion for helping kids and other people out. And, you know, it was neat to see the kind of the excitement with some of them kids when they get those things.
Oh yeah. They don't know what to say. They're excited, but they're trying to be cool. So, it's fun. It's fun, except for that little 1-year-old that won it, man. He didn't care. He was just like,
he didn't know. Maybe in like 10 years, he'll be like, oh, I don't even know how I got this, but cool. Thanks. I just sent those out yesterday. So all those kiddos will be getting those here in another day or two.
That's pretty cool. What we miss, Joe?
Boy, I don't know. We covered a lot. I think one thing that I definitely want to just kind of touch on is the different groups that were there. A bunch of different NGOs and nonprofits were there that kind of was like trying to support each other. So, Bow Hunters of Wyoming, Wyoming Wild Sheep was there. Safari Club International was there. We had a representative from Safari Club there. Wyoming Guides and Outfitters Association. We had a whole table of guides and outfitters there. Houndsman XP, you guys had a whole table there.
Yep.
We had, Wyoming Wildlife. We had the Wyoming State Trappers had a table, and so I just look at that and I'm like, good night. That is so neat because, bow hunters aren't always focused on bear stuff. The trappers have so much that they're always fighting for. And they're like, you know what, we're coming to support you guys. And that's one thing that I'm always trying to like make sure that we do as a foundation is support other groups no matter what. Like something might come up with Wyoming Wild Sheep. And I'm like, man, it really isn't in our wheelhouse, but if you need us to sign on for a letter to a commissioner or a legislator and it makes sense, we're in, man. We'll help you out because one day we're going to need your help. And there's been a lot of that going on in Wyoming. And it's so neat to see kind of everyone from different places come together and just kind of like support each other. I don't want to discount that. I think we need a ton of that going forward.
Well, from where I sit is in the hound hunting community, I hear so many times that, oh, you can't work with this group or the deer hunters, you can't work with that group and they hate houndsmen. But I'll tell you what I saw when I came to Cody for this banquet. So I saw everybody putting their differences aside, supporting one another. It was like a utopia in there. So I know that it's possible. It absolutely is possible to do this. We may not agree on every single thing, but we agree on conservation. We agree on, science-based wildlife management. We agree on people and their freedoms to go out and hunt the way that they choose to hunt. Within the boundaries of the North American model and all that stuff and ethics, but support them. We can do this. We can do it. And I saw it being done in Cody at the banquet. It was awesome.
There's a couple things going on in this state that are, it's legislative session. And so this is when you usually see the knives come out. Yep. And one group's trying to do this and the other group doesn't want that. And I'm like kind of starting to see that. And I just was like, you know what? There's some things that we're trying to do that maybe the Wyoming Guides and Outfitters don't agree with. I'm like, I totally get that, you guys. I love you guys. Like, I'm going to support you no matter what. If you don't like this, I get it. And I think the same goes back. They're like, yeah, we're just going to disagree on this one thing. It's not life or death. And like, I even said at the banquet, I'm like, we all need to learn that we can have disagreements and not hate each other. Like, we can disagree on things. It doesn't mean we have to hate each other. It's just the way it needs to be going forward. Yeah, I disagree with you on this one. Okay, cool. Let's just disagree. And if you want to fight against it, that's fine. But like, we're going to come together for something else down the road. And we need to know that. And that's important going forward.
Yeah. I got a funny story that kind of draws that parallel. When I was in the Marine Corps, there's a lot of rivalry among, companies in a battalion and stuff like that. And a bunch of us were out and we got in this big, it was crazy. we got in this it was basically a brawl with one of the other companies. And by the time we got back to the barracks, it was all smoothed out. But there was always that rivalry between us and first. We were first platoon, they were third platoon, and there was always a rivalry, whether it was going through a training scenario or whatever. And but when it came to game time, there wasn't any rivalry. If they needed help, we were on the way. If we were in a jam, we knew that they were on the way. And that's the same kind of mentality you gotta have in this game. We don't have to agree on everything, but when the chips are down, we got to be there for one another. There aren't enough of us not to be.
We talked about it the last time we were on. Divided, we are just some small groups and user groups, but when you couple just in the bear hunting space, the houndsmen, the spot and stock guys, and the bait guys, that's a freaking army. And we can be that way. We can disagree. That's okay. We're just like you guys just said. We're going to disagree and argue amongst ourselves, but we got to be brothers and sisters in arms here, because the fights aren't going to stop. I have some bad feelings about some stuff coming up. I know Humane Society's up to something nationally. They're probing a lot of states on their bear stuff. So we are in for it, and we got to be ready. So
yeah. And we're all going after the same thing. I mean, when you go into legislation, you've got your agenda, and the sheep hunters have their bills. Only so many bills are going to get passed, and they're going to try to lump things together, and they're going to, and that's no different than what I was talking about in my analogy in the Marine Corps. There's like a Liberty Pass for the company for the weekend with the best time. So you're all competing for that. But when the chips are down, we got to be there for each other. So for sure. Well, Joe, what else you got? We going to wrap this one up, or you got something else?
I think next year, this is for people to keep it on their radar. I haven't talked to Jaden about it, but I'm going to bring this thing to the next level. I'm thinking of like a couple day deal almost, just so when people come out to this, they have like, maybe the banquet Saturday, but on a Friday night, we do kind of a meet and greet or whatever. And then in the morning on Saturday, we have kind of like instead of doing it prior to the banquet, we have some breakout sessions where we have, kind of like some small groups of people where we have maybe a talk about, I don't know, Alex talking about using Leicas, or you talking about using the kind of dog, so we have little breakout sessions, and maybe before the banquet, we have something. So I got some ideas to try and make it a little bit more of a weekend event that if you're going to come out here, you're definitely going to get your money's worth, and all those would be kind of free entry, and just get people because the one thing that I was so bummed about is I didn't get enough FaceTime with so many people, you included. And I was like, man, if we all got together, like planned on Friday, and just got together and sat down and had some drinks or whatever, and just kind of like visited, it'd be so nice to have that, where you're not trying to race at the banquet to do it. So
sure. Well, you're a busy guy at that banquet. I mean, you didn't have time. You literally did not have time for that, Joe. You were on the move the whole time, and I don't think I saw you sit down except when you sat down to give your. And I thought it was funny. You put a chair out on the stage and gave that talk, and I thought he probably needs to sit down for a little bit.
I did.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to sit down, but I was also like, I don't want it to be like I'm talking at people. I just want to be like a conversation. And so the sit down was really nice. I tried to sit down a few times, barely saw my kid. And I was just like, but it was good. I love it. You're mixing it up and having a good time, and it goes by so fast. And when it's all said and done, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of sad that it's going to be a year until the next banquet. So
I agree.
Well, we are going to keep it hot, and when we start keeping this topic hot, and when we start getting close to that time, the first of next year, we're going to start beating the drums again for people to come. I mean, it's just Cody's just a cool place. I mean, you got custom gun manufacturers out there that you can go and tour factories. You can go to the firearms museum, and the Buffalo Bill is beyond imaginable. You got the east entrance to the park. You got the mountain ranges. I mean, there's just And if it's cold enough, take a couple extra days and go ice fishing or take a snowmobile trip or do something like that. You really
bring your dogs. You can run some lions. We got, sky's the limit. There's a really cool Cody shooting experience here where you can go in and shoot a Gatling gun and black powder. And, that's a fun thing too for people to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Cody's a cool town for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time, Joe. I appreciate all the work you're doing out there for bear hunters. I think we're just seeing the beginning of what the American Bear Foundation can accomplish in the United States. I'm gonna be talking about it when I go to Michigan next month.
Awesome.
And I've got to go up there and speak to the Michigan Bear Hunters Association. I'm going to tell them about what's going on with the American Bear Foundation, and keep getting the message out.
Great. Give those guys our best. That's a strong group up there. They're doing good things.
Yeah. Yep. All right, man. Well, hey.
Well, thanks, Chris.
You bet, Joe. It's great to meet you this weekend and get a little bit of time with you. So.
Heck yeah, buddy.
All right. Well, hey, until next time, you follow your hounds and I'll follow mine.